by now you've seen the concepts of the law of supply and the law of demand. And you know that the law of supply says that there's a direct relationship or an upward sloping relationship between price and quantity. As people earn more in terms of the price that they receive, they produce more, and they have more incentive to produce. We've also seen the law of demand, which says that as price drops, consumers consume more. Things are cheaper, they're going to buy more. What equilibrium does is it combines these two in the marketplace. So we bring buyers and sellers into the marketplace on a single graph, and now we have the market mechanism. We have supply and demand meeting to form what is called equilibrium. This point here, usually we denote it with a star, gives us an equilibrium price and an equilibrium quantity. That means that there's a single price for both buyers and sellers, and there's a single quantity for both buyers and sellers. What we're going to see is that this is the best point to be at for both buyers and sellers. Because the quantity supplied equals the quantity demanded, that means that there is nothing left over that sellers cannot sell. It also means that there's nothing left over that buyers cannot buy. Buyers and sellers leave the marketplace happy because they've sold everything that they've brought to sell, or they've bought everything that they came intending to buy. Right? And so I think the easiest thing to talk about when we talk about equilibrium being better than the alternative is to talk about the alternative first. And so the alternative is called disequilibrium. All right, so if you're not familiar with the word equilibrium, I'll just sort of say as a side note, equilibrium implies balance. All right, so if you're born in September, you might be a Libra, and you've got the scales. Or if you ever buy anything that weighs a pound, LB for the weight. If you think of things weighing the same, being balanced on a scale, then you get the idea of equilibrium. Now, disequilibrium is being out of balance. So any point that is either a different price or a different quantity is worse. All right, so why is disequilibrium bad? Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show a price that is too high compared to equilibrium. All right, so I'm just going to start here. Here's the equilibrium price, which we denote as P star. And let's start. I'm going to give a little h because this is a price that's too high. Now, what happens in the consumer's mind if the price is too high for a product? It's more than they're willing to spend. So the idea is that at this point, you're going to find very few customers willing to buy the product. People don't want to pay that high price. But from the seller's point of view, sellers like to earn more money. If the product costs more, they're going to earn more. They're going to produce more. So you wind up with a very high quantity produced here and a very low quantity consumed. And then you wind up with more produced than consumed. And this gap is called a surplus. And that's the economic term. When the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded. All right? Now, why is this bad? Don't producers want this to happen? Well, if you think of what producers are doing, is they're bringing products to the marketplace. Whether it's like a farmer's market, you've got a bunch of apples to sell, or it's iPads and you've got an inventory you want to get rid of, they're not selling it. This surplus is unsold. Doesn't matter if you could have made more money on each one, you're not selling it. So this surplus is bad for producers because it's not getting sold. They paid to make it, they paid to ship it, they paid to produce it, and it's just going unsold. That hurts producers. Now consumers are hurt as well because they can't get the products that they want. They go to the marketplace and they look at the price tag and they're like, this is ridiculous. I'm not paying, I'm going home. And consumers lose utility. Consumers lose well-being, their happiness, because they can't buy the thing they wish they could have had. So surpluses are bad for both parties. The only people that benefit from this surplus are this quantity of people right here. Some producers get to produce the product. They get to earn more money per product. But all consumers and the rest of the producers lose out from this surplus. Now, what about a price that's too low. I'll do it in red. Don't we like low prices for things? The problem with low prices is that it's going to cause problems for both buyers and sellers as well. And so if you think about what consumers are thinking, yes, we like low prices. In fact, as the price drops to being almost too cheap or too low of a price, you wind up with extra consumers that are attracted to those low prices. Remember, that's the law of demand again. And so you're going to actually have more consumers wanting to buy this product. And at the same time, producers are looking at this low price and saying, we can't stay in business. We're not going to make a profit. We're not going to find this worth our time to make this product. So as this price is too low, sellers are saying, I'm going out of business. I'm not going to make this product for people if I can't sell it for the price I need to stay in business. And so you wind up with less quantity supplied and more quantity demanded. And so you can say quantity supplied is less than quantity demanded. The term for this gap right here at this specific low price is called a shortage. Right? So there's a shortage of this product. And so as consumers sort of come out of the woodwork, so to speak, they're drawn in to buy something for a low price, they get to the market and find it's gone. There's nobody selling it because they can't earn money. And there's too many people wanting it. And so a lot of consumers go home empty-handed. And so just like there's people being hurt by surpluses, people are hurt by shortages. Sellers can't make any money, they're hurt as a group. Buyers go home, they're like, I would have loved to have it, but I couldn't buy it. They're hurt. The only people helped by a shortage are the few people who got lucky and got it. All right? And in the real world, who gets something that's in a shortage? All right? It could be somebody knows somebody, somebody's related to somebody, somebody bribes somebody doesn't like how you look, and you don't get it. And so what happens is this scarce good winds up getting rationed by being given out to people who may or may not be the right people to get. Right? It could be distributed unfairly. Right? So that's the idea. Disequilibrium is either too high of a price or too low of a price causes problems. There's a different quantity for buyers and sellers for both of these. And because of that, you wind up with both buyers and sellers being hurt. Now, one other thing that I'll say is, well, what about the quantity side of things? What happens if you have the wrong quantity, as opposed to there being a price too high or a price too low? What if there's a quantity that's too high or too low? What happens here is that sometimes this is called, the demand curve can be called the marginal willingness to pay. All right, so if you take a quantity that's too low, I'm going to put a little L here because that's the low quantity. At this low quantity, too many people are willing to pay too high of a price. In fact, you're restricting the quantity so that only the people who want it the most are going to get it. Those are the people who are willing to pay the most. This is too low of a quantity because sellers can produce it cheaply. Buyers really want it. The market should tell sellers to make more until all customers are happy. And you can also say, well, what if the quantity is too high? Now you're overproducing something that consumers don't really want as a group. And so the term that goes with this sometimes, for this is the corresponding term for the demand curve. The other term that goes with this is the marginal opportunity cost. And so if the marginal willingness to pay is higher than the marginal opportunity cost, then the market should tell people to produce more because consumers want it, producers can make money off of it. Both sides can be made even happier if they produce more. And like I said over here, if you have not much willingness to pay, this means that nobody really wants the product that much. And it's actually very expensive to produce. The market should say, produce less. So if you pick the wrong quantity, then you've got people paying a lot to produce something that's not very valuable to